All right, so with this exercise here, what I want you to do is I want you to put one leg on the chair in front of you. You're going to have your knee and you're going to have your knee slightly bent and you're going to have your heel just off the ground. Now, this is a progression of the hinge variation. This time we're going to start in this position. We're going to go back, keep the the knee a little bit bent and the heel off the ground. So looking at a nice long hinge. You'll probably run out of space at some point in this hip joint. That's okay. So we're going to here. Now what you want to do is you can put your hand on here if you want initially, keeping the heel where it is and keeping the knee slightly bent. You want to bring the hip forward like this. And then only once the hip is over the knee, we come up onto the toes and we straighten the knee at the same time. Okay, so it's 2 movements or 3 movements. One, we go back, and then from here, the hips come forward over the knee. And then once they're here, we come up and lock, so heel as high as possible and locking the knee. Once we lock the knee, we'll start to get a little bit more extension and external rotation out of that hip joint, and you'll start to feel the glute a little bit more. So just one more repetition. Bum goes back. I've got my heel just a bit off the ground. My knee is a little bit bent. I keep mixing up the joints. And then from here, hips come forward. So you want to push through that forefoot to bring the hip isolated forward. I get a nice contraction in my glute doing that. And then from here, you can press up and squeeze. And if that feels comfortable, you can really reach up and lock out. So the aim from there is to start to really isolate that hip extension, get the movement without the knee lock. Because once that knee locks before we extend the hip, we're not going to get that hip extension. We're also not going to open up that hip at the front, but we're not going to get the smooth connective movement, coordinated movement from flexion to extension.